I should have seen it coming when Marcus asked for my laptop password 3 weeks ago. Just need to check some family photos, he'd said, that charming smile he'd perfected since childhood spreading across his face. The same smile that convinced our parents he was the responsible one, the successful one, the son who'd actually made something of himself. I was 29, working as what my family called some government data entry clerk. They had no idea what a Treasury Department securities analyst actually did, and I'd stopped trying to explain years ago. Marcus was 32, supposedly running a successful consulting firm, though I'd noticed the expensive suits getting less frequent and the requests to borrow money becoming more common. Sure, I told him, writing down the password. Just the photos folder though. He'd laughed. What else would I want? Your exciting spreadsheet collection. The family had gathered at our parents' house in Connecticut for Christmas. The usual crowd. Mom and Dad, Marcus and his wife Jennifer, our sister Claire with her husband Todd, and various aunts, uncles and cousins filling the oversized dining room. The tree lights twinkled, carols played softly in the background, and the smell of turkey filled the air. Everything seemed normal until Marcus stood up during dinner, wine glass in hand. I have an announcement, he said, that familiar smirk playing at his lips. Our dear Sarah has been going on about her investment portfolio for years. You know, the one she supposedly built from her little government job. The table quieted. I felt my stomach drop, but I kept my expression neutral, fork halfway to my mouth. Well, Marcus continued, pulling out his phone, I finally did her a favor. Sold it all last week. Guess what it was worth? Dad leaned forward, interested despite himself. He'd always dismissed my financial discussions as boring government work, preferring Marcus's flashy stories about consulting deals and business trips. How much? Claire asked, her tone already mocking. $12,000. Marcus laughed. 12,000. After all her talk about building wealth and smart investing. I sold it and moved the cash to my account to save her from herself. She'll thank me later when I actually invest it properly. The room erupted in laughter. Jennifer covered her mouth, trying to hide her giggle. Todd shook his head in what looked like pity. Mom sighed, that disappointed sigh I'd heard my entire life. Sarah, honey, Mom said gently as if talking to a child, we've told you that government jobs don't really build wealth. This is embarrassing. 12,000, Dad repeated, chuckling. And here we thought you were actually doing something with your money. Marcus, you probably spend that on a single client dinner. Marcus raised his glass. Actually, Dad, I do. That's what real business looks like. I set down my fork carefully, reached for my wine glass and took a slow sip. My hands were steady. Years of working with classified financial documents had taught me perfect composure. Marcus, I said quietly, how exactly did you access my portfolio? Your laptop password, genius. He rolled his eyes. Took about 10 minutes to find your brokerage account. You really should use better security. Anyone could have stolen from you. And you sold everything? Every single stock and bond. He looked so proud of himself. Liquidated the whole thing. The money's safe in my business account now. I'll invest it properly, maybe double it in a year. You can thank me at next Christmas. Aunt Helen laughed from down the table. Sarah, dear, maybe you should let Marcus handle your finances from now on. He clearly knows what he's doing. Unlike some people, Jennifer added, her voice dripping with false sympathy, who are still playing pretend investor with their data entry salary. I took another sip of wine. When did you execute the sale? Last Tuesday. Marcus was practically glowing. Why? Worried about your precious 12,000. Just curious about the timing. Claire leaned over. Sarah, just admit you're terrible with money. It's okay. Not everyone can be financially successful like Marcus. Speaking of which, Dad interrupted, turning to Marcus, tell everyone about that new consulting contract you landed. What was it, $2 million over 3 years? As Marcus launched into his story, I pulled out my phone and opened my email. 3 new messages, all marked urgent, all with Treasury Department email addresses. I scanned the first one quickly. Ms. Chen, unauthorized access detected on Series I Securities account #TSD4478829. Federal investigation initiated. Please confirm all transactions immediately. I looked up. Marcus was still talking, gesturing with his wine glass, everyone hanging on his every word about his business acumen and investment strategies. My phone buzzed. An incoming call. The caller ID showed a number I recognized immediately. Treasury Department, Office of Inspector General. I stood up slowly, phone in hand. Excuse me, I need to take this. Probably calling about her 12,000, Marcus called out, and the table erupted in fresh laughter. I walked into Dad's study, closing the door behind me. This is Sarah Chin. Miss Chin, this is Special Agent Rodriguez, Treasury Department Office of Inspector General. We have a situation that requires your immediate attention regarding your Series I government securities account. I'm aware, I said calmly. My brother accessed my account without authorization and liquidated approximately $850,000 in protected government securities last Tuesday. There was a pause on the other end. 850,000? Give or take a few thousand, yes. The exact amount should be in my last quarterly statement. Miss Chin, are you currently with the individual who accessed your account? Yes, we're at my parents' house for Christmas dinner. He just announced it to the entire family, thinking he sold $12,000 in regular stocks. Another pause. He doesn't know they were Treasury securities? He has no idea. I work as a securities analyst for the department. My portfolio consists entirely of Series I bonds and other protected government securities. Unauthorized sale and transfer of those funds is a federal offense under 18 U.S.C. Section 641. We're aware. Agent Rodriguez's voice was crisp now, all business. We've already contacted the FBI field office in Connecticut. Unauthorized access and liquidation of Treasury securities with intent to appropriate funds. Ms. Chin, we're looking at multiple federal charges here. The local field office will need to interview everyone present and secure the individual who accessed your account. Understood. Can you return to wherever the family is gathered and keep everyone there? We need to ensure no one leaves before the FBI arrives. How long? They're already en route. 15 minutes, maybe less. I returned to the dining room. Marcus was still holding court, now explaining his investment strategy to Uncle Paul. Everyone looked so happy, so comfortable in their assumptions about which sibling was the success story. I sat back down and picked up my wine glass. Everything okay? Mom asked, her tone suggesting she hoped I wasn't going to cause a scene about my lost $12,000. Fine, I said. Just work stuff. Marcus laughed. Work called you on Christmas? That's what happens when you're not important enough to have real vacation time. In my consulting firm, I decide when I work. That must be nice, I said evenly. It is. He leaned back in his chair, the picture of success. You know, Sarah, it's not too late to change careers. I could probably get you an entry-level position at my firm. Won't pay much at first, but it's better than government work. I'll keep that in mind. Dad cleared his throat. Marcus, you said you moved Sarah's money to your business account. Have you actually invested it yet? Not yet. Waiting for the right opportunity. These things take strategy, Dad. Unlike Sarah's approach of just letting money sit in boring bonds. I almost smiled at that. If he'd actually looked at what he was selling instead of just seeing dollar signs, he might have noticed the securities classifications, the Treasury Department watermarks, the federal restriction notices on every single page. How did the sale even go through? Todd asked. Don't investment accounts have security measures? Marcus waved his hand dismissively. Sarah used her birthday as her password. Amateur hour. I just logged in, found her brokerage account and moved everything. Took maybe 20 minutes total. You logged into her brokerage account, Jennifer repeated, sounding impressed. From her laptop? Yep. She'd saved all her passwords. Honestly, it's like she wanted someone to save her from herself. The doorbell rang. Everyone looked toward the front hallway. Mom glanced at Dad, confused. Are we expecting someone? I'll get it, I said, standing up. Sarah, we're in the middle of dinner, Mom protested. I was already walking toward the door. Through the frosted glass I could see multiple figures. I opened it to find 4 people in dark suits, badges already out. Miss Sarah Chin? The lead agent asked. Yes. Special Agent Williams, FBI. We're here regarding the unauthorized access and liquidation of protected Treasury securities. Is Marcus Chin present? In the dining room. I led them back. The conversation died instantly when the 4 FBI agents walked in behind me. Marcus's face went pale. What's going on? Agent Williams held up his badge. Marcus Chin. Why, yes. I'm Special Agent Williams, FBI. I need you to stand up, please. What? Why? Marcus looked around the table desperately. This is insane. What's happening? Mr. Chin, we have evidence that you illegally accessed, sold, and transferred $850,000 in protected United States Treasury securities. You have the right to remain silent. 850,000? Dad's voice cracked. Sarah said she had 12,000. I finally spoke, my voice calm and clear. Marcus only saw the number of shares, not their actual value. Each Series I bond one held was worth between $500 and $1,500. I had approximately 700 bonds, plus various other Treasury securities. Marcus's mouth opened and closed. No sound came out. You work for the Treasury Department? Agent Williams confirmed, looking at me. Securities analyst, yes. All of my personal investments are in government-backed securities. It's standard for employees in my division. We're required to maintain portfolios exclusively in Treasury instruments and to report any suspicious activity immediately. Jennifer's voice was barely a whisper. $850,000? Give or take, I said. The final number is in the liquidation records. Marcus transferred all of it to his business account last Tuesday. The Treasury Department's security systems flagged the unusual sale within hours. Another FBI agent was speaking into his radio. We'll need forensic accounting on the business account. The funds need to be frozen immediately. This is a mistake, Marcus said, his voice rising. She said I could use her laptop. He gave me the password. This is just a misunderstanding. Mr. Chen, Agent Williams said firmly, did you have explicit authorization to access Ms. Chen's investment accounts? We're family. That's not authorization. Did you access her Treasury Securities account? Marcus looked at me, panic clear in his eyes. Sir, tell them this is just a family thing. We can sort this out. I took a sip of wine. I gave you my laptop password to access family photos. I did not authorize you to access any financial accounts, and I certainly did not authorize you to sell $850,000 in protected government securities and transfer the funds to your personal accounts. Protected. Claire's voice was barely audible. What does that mean? Treasury securities have special federal protection, I explained calmly. Unauthorized access, sale, or transfer is a federal crime under multiple statutes. 18 U.S.C. Section 641 covers theft of government property. 18 U.S.C. Section 1343 covers wire fraud. There are several other applicable laws. Agent Williams nodded. Mr. Chin, I need you to come with us. You'll be processed at the federal building in Hartford. Processed? Jennifer's voice broke. You mean arrested? Yes, ma'am. Marcus suddenly lunged toward me, but two agents caught him. You set me up. You knew I'd look in your accounts. This is entrapment. Actually, I said quietly, I had no idea you'd commit federal crimes. I thought you wanted family photos like you said. The fact that you chose to illegally access my investment accounts, liquidate federally protected securities, and transfer nearly $1 million to your account is entirely your decision. Mr. Chin, Agent Williams said, pulling out handcuffs, turn around and place your hands behind your back. No, wait. Marcus struggled briefly, but the agents were professional and efficient. The handcuffs clicked into place. Mom started crying. Dad sat frozen, his face ashen. Claire stared at her plate. Todd had his phone out, apparently looking up the laws I'd mentioned. Aunt Helen looked like she might faint. Jennifer grabbed my arm. Sarah, please. Can't you just drop the charges? We'll give the money back. Please. We have kids. I looked at her hand on my arm, then met her eyes. I didn't file the charges. The Treasury Department's security systems automatically flagged the unauthorized transaction. Once federal securities are involved, it's out of my hands. The U.S. Attorney's Office will prosecute. But you work for them. You can talk to them. I'm a securities analyst, not a federal prosecutor. And even if I could influence the decision, which I can't, Marcus committed multiple federal crimes. He accessed my account without authorization, stole nearly $1 million in federal securities, and transferred the funds with intent to keep them. That's not a mistake. That's deliberate theft. Agent Williams started walking Marcus toward the door. Marcus kept looking back at me, his expression cycling between rage and terror. Sarah. Dad finally found his voice. You can't let them arrest your brother on Christmas. I turned to him. Dad, Marcus stole $850,000 from me. That's not a family matter. That's a serious federal crime. But you said it was only $12,000. Claire protested. No, I corrected quietly. Marcus said he thought it was 12,000. He didn't bother to actually look at what he was stealing. If he had, he would have seen they were Treasury securities with federal protection notices on every document. Another FBI agent approached. Ms. Chen will need you to come to the field office tomorrow to provide a formal statement. Do you have records of all your account access logs? Yes. The Treasury Department keeps comprehensive records of all employee accounts. Every login, every transaction, every access point. It's all documented. Good. That will help with the prosecution. Marcus was being led out the front door now. His voice echoed back, Sarah, please. Don't do this to me. I didn't respond. Agent Williams handed me a card. We'll also need to secure Mr. Chen's computer and phone as evidence. We have a warrant being prepared. And his business accounts will be frozen pending investigation. What about the money? Mom asked desperately. Can Sarah get her money back? The funds will be frozen and eventually returned to Ms. Chen once the case is processed. But that could take months. After the FBI left, the dining room was silent except for Mom's quiet crying and the sound of distant sirens. Dad stared at me. Did you know? About the amount. Of course I knew. I built that portfolio over 7 years, Dad. Every paycheck, systematic investing in Treasury securities. It's not exciting, but it's secure and tax-advantaged. 7 years, he repeated slowly. $850,000. From a data entry job. I'm not a data entry clerk. I'm a GS-13 securities analyst with the Treasury Department. I evaluate and monitor Treasury security transactions, assess risk factors and report suspicious activity. I make $87,000 a year base salary, plus performance bonuses. I've been maxing out my retirement accounts and investing consistently since I was 22. Claire's voice was small. Why didn't you ever tell us? I tried. You all assumed I was lying or exaggerating. After a while I stopped correcting you. It was easier to let you think I was the family failure. But Marcus said. Jennifer trailed off, realization dawning. He said he had a consulting firm. That $2 million contract. Did you ever actually see proof of that contract? I asked gently. Or his consulting firm's office. Or his client list. Her silence was answer enough. Todd was reading from his phone. It says here that unauthorized access and sale of Treasury securities can carry up to 10 years in federal prison and fines up to $250,000. And that's just one of the charges. Uncle Paul stood up abruptly. I need some air. Over the next hour the story pieced itself together. Marcus's consulting firm had been struggling for 2 years. He was nearly $200,000 in debt. The fancy suits were rented. The business trips were job interviews. He'd been borrowing money from their parents. Actually, they found out later he'd been taking it from their accounts without asking, much like he'd done with mine. When he'd accessed my laptop and found my investment accounts, he'd seen what he thought was his salvation. $12,000 might not solve all his problems, but it was a start. He hadn't bothered to read the fine print, to notice the federal warnings, to understand that what he was stealing wasn't just my money, it was protected government securities. My phone buzzed with a text from Agent Rodriguez. Treasury IG wants to meet tomorrow, 9 a.m. We'll need complete access logs and transaction histories. This is going to be a high-profile case. I replied, understood. I'll bring everything. Mom finally looked at me. What's going to happen to him? He'll be arraigned probably tomorrow or the next day. The U.S. attorney will formally charge him. Given the amount involved and the federal nature of the crimes, he's unlikely to get bail. Can he go to prison? Yes. Probably will, actually. The federal sentencing guidelines for this type of crime are strict, especially with the dollar amount involved. Dad's voice was hoarse. This is your brother, Sarah. I know. He's also someone who stole nearly $1 million from me, Dad. And not just from me, from the United States Treasury. The securities one hold aren't just personal investments. They're government-backed instruments with federal protection. What he did wasn't just theft from a family member. It was theft from the federal government. But you could talk to them, couldn't you? Ask them to be lenient. I set down my wine glass. Even if I wanted to, which I'm not sure I do, I don't have that authority. The Treasury Inspector General's office handles these cases. The FBI investigates. The U.S. Attorney prosecutes. I'm a witness and a victim, nothing more. He's your brother, Mom repeated as if that somehow changed the facts. He was my brother when he decided to steal from me, I said quietly. He was my brother when he announced it to everyone at this table, expecting you all to laugh at my pathetic $12,000. He was my brother when he transferred my entire life savings to his business account with plans to invest it himself and keep the profits. Being related doesn't make federal crimes disappear. Jennifer stood up suddenly. I need to call a lawyer. Oh God, the kids. What am I going to tell the kids? She rushed from the room, phone already out. Claire looked at me. Did you ever think about warning him? Before the FBI showed up. When would I have done that? He announced what he'd done during dinner. The Treasury Department flagged the transaction days ago. The FBI was already investigating. I found out about the extent of what he'd done when I checked my email 20 minutes ago. But you must have known he'd accessed your account before tonight. I get security alerts, yes. But I receive hundreds of security notifications a month in my job. I review them systematically, usually on Monday mornings. Today is Saturday. Christmas. I was off work. The Treasury IG moved faster than my normal review process. The truth was more complicated. I had received an alert Tuesday night. I'd seen the unusual activity, the liquidation of my entire portfolio. I'd also seen that the funds had been transferred to an account belonging to Marcus Chin, with matching addresses and social security numbers. I'd known immediately what it meant. And I'd known exactly what would happen next. The Treasury Department's automated systems would flag it. The Inspector General would investigate. The FBI would get involved. It was inevitable, automatic, completely out of my control. I could have warned him. Called him Wednesday morning, told him to return the money immediately, explained what he'd actually stolen. But I hadn't. I'd watched my family mock me for 29 years. Watched them celebrate Marcus's manufactured success while dismissing my actual achievements. Watched them laugh at my boring government job, while I built real wealth, real security, real success. And when Marcus finally crossed the line from mere mockery into actual federal crime, I'd done exactly what my training required. I documented everything and let the system work. My phone buzzed again. Another email from the Treasury Inspector General's office. Ms. Chin, please be advised that Mr. Marcus Chin has been charged with 1. Theft of government property, 18 U.S.C. Section 641. 2. Wire fraud, 18 U.S.C. Section 1343. 3. Unauthorized computer access, 18 U.S.C. Section 1030. 4. Conversion of government securities, 18 U.S.C. Section 8. Initial hearing scheduled Monday, 10 a.m. Federal District Court, Hartford. Your presence required. Dad was reading over my shoulder. I watched the color drain from his face as he read the charges. Sarah, he whispered, that's 4 separate federal charges. Yes. He could go to prison for years. Yes. Please. Please talk to someone. Get them to reduce the charges. He made a mistake. I looked at my father, the man who'd dismissed every accomplishment I'd ever achieved, who'd compared me unfavorably to Marcus for my entire life, who'd laughed 2 hours ago when Marcus announced he'd stolen what he thought was my pathetic $12,000. Dad, I said quietly, Marcus didn't make a mistake. He deliberately accessed my private accounts without permission. He liquidated nearly $1 million in protected federal securities. He transferred all of it to his account with no intention of telling me or returning it. Then he announced it to the entire family, expecting everyone to laugh at my expense. That's not a mistake. That's a series of deliberate criminal choices. But he's family. So am I. Did anyone at this table defend me when Marcus announced he'd stolen from me? Did anyone tell him that was wrong? Or did you all just laugh at how poor I was? The silence stretched out. Claire spoke first, her voice small. We didn't know. We thought it was just $12,000. Would that have made it okay? If it was actually $12,000? Would theft be acceptable then? No one answered. I stood up, gathering my coat and purse. I need to go. I have to meet with the Treasury Inspector General in the morning, then the FBI. I'll be at the federal court on Monday for Marcus's hearing. Sarah, wait. Mom reached for my arm. I gently pulled away. I'll keep you updated on the case as much as I'm allowed to. But understand, this is a federal prosecution now. It's not about family. It's about laws that Marcus chose to break. I drove back to my apartment in Hartford, leaving the Christmas dinner in ruins behind me. Over the next few days, the full scope of Marcus's financial situation became clear. His consulting firm was bankrupt. He'd been writing bad checks for months. The $2 million contract he'd bragged about didn't exist. He owed money to multiple creditors and had 3 maxed-out credit cards. He'd been stealing from our parents' accounts for over a year, taking small amounts they'd never noticed. My $850,000 had looked like salvation to him. His plan, I learned later from court documents, was to invest half and use half to pay off his immediate debts. He genuinely believed he could double my money in a year and return it to me with no one the wiser. He'd had no idea what he was actually stealing. On Monday morning, I sat in the federal courthouse in Hartford, watching Marcus's arraignment. He looked smaller somehow, dressed in an orange jumpsuit instead of expensive suits. His lawyer, a federal public defender, since Marcus couldn't afford a private attorney, argued for bail. The federal prosecutor stood up. "Your Honor, Mr. Chin stole $850,000 in protected Treasury securities. He has significant debt, no legitimate income, and has demonstrated a pattern of financial crimes including theft from family members. He's a flight risk and a danger to commit further crimes. The government requests he be held without bail." The judge agreed. Bail denied. Marcus looked back at me as they led him away. I kept my expression neutral. The Treasury Department froze his business accounts and seized his remaining assets. The money he'd stolen from me was recovered and returned within 2 weeks. With interest. My parents called every day begging me to somehow make it stop. I explained repeatedly that I couldn't. The U.S. attorney was prosecuting, not me. The crimes were against the federal government, not just against me personally. I was a witness, not the prosecutor. They didn't understand. Or maybe they didn't want to. 3 months later, Marcus took a plea deal. 7 years in federal prison, restitution for all stolen funds, including money taken from our parents, and 5 years supervised release. The alternative was going to trial and risking 15 years if convicted on all counts. He took the deal. I received the restitution payments over the next year. Small amounts from his prison work wages, larger amounts from the seizure and sale of his few remaining assets. Eventually, I was made whole, at least financially. The family fractures were harder to repair. Dad never apologized for dismissing my career or laughing when Marcus announced the theft. Mom still calls occasionally, her voice heavy with disappointment that I couldn't be more forgiving. Claire and I have a distant relationship now. She never outright blamed me, but she never quite forgave me either. Jennifer divorced Marcus while he was awaiting trial. She moved back to her parents' house with the kids. I sent her information about resources for families of incarcerated people. She never responded. I returned to work at the Treasury Department, where my colleagues treated the whole situation as an interesting case study in securities protection protocols. No one blamed me. No one suggested I should have handled it differently. Federal crimes are federal crimes, and the system handled them exactly as designed. My portfolio recovered. I rebuilt it methodically, the same way I'd built it the first time. By the time Marcus was released from prison, I'd surpassed my previous balance. Sometimes I wonder if I could have prevented it all. If I'd kept my laptop password to myself. If I'd checked my security alerts more promptly. If I'd warned Marcus before the FBI arrived. But then I remember the laughter at that Christmas dinner. The casual cruelty. The complete dismissal of my life and work and achievements. The way my entire family celebrated what they thought was my poverty and failure. And I remember that I didn't steal from Marcus. He stole from me. I just happened to have the kind of money that comes with federal protection and automatic prosecution. The system did what it was designed to do. And Marcus learned, finally, that real success isn't measured by expensive suits or impressive stories or family approval. It's measured by actual achievement, genuine wealth, and the kind of stability that comes from years of patient, disciplined work. The kind of work I'd been doing all along while everyone was too busy laughing to notice.